Make sure you pick up my 2 books that's in Amazon right now. The first one is Passive-Aggressive Racism and the System of White Supremacy. And I talk about in that particular book how the system of white supremacy really runs and on our daily lives here in America. In our latest book, 7 Steps to Decolonize the Mind, we go through those steps to try to deprogram you from the system of white supremacy. Make sure you can pick up those books on Amazon.com.
Introducing the African Diaspora News Channel app, your gateway to stories that's overlooked by the corporate mainstream media.
At African Diaspora News Channel, we cover stories that don't receive mainstream attention, and we serve as the voice to the global Black community. We are committed to informing and educating through the power of media, connecting the African diaspora one story at a time.
With our platform, we're helping to end injustice by exposing it.
Join us in standing for excellence in journalism and serving our community. Download the African Diaspora News app today.
Peace, family. My name is Vicki Dillard, and I'm so pleased that you've joined me here today on African Diaspora News Channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. Just a little note for you. I'm here live typically Tuesday through Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern. That's Tuesday through Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern. You don't want to miss my lives. Of course, family, be sure that when you tune in that you share, give us a big thumbs up, and look for me on a regular basis, as well as my other content. And of course, be sure to support the entire platform, okay? That's so very important, family, for us to elevate our collective Black voices. We can't complain about not having folks that represent our issues to speak to who we are and what we are in an effective way when we don't support them. Yes? So for that, I said thank you so very much, family. Now, of course, I've been covering the Nation of Islam for many years now. I've been a very vocal advocate of some of their, the way they move, their policies, their engagement, their love, and the solutions that they provide specifically for Black folks here in the United States, and by extension, folks from around the world. So yes, I certainly appreciate and have great love, especially for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the work that he's trying to do. This is not about whether or not, you agree with somebody's every little religious policy and all that. We're talking about the underlying goodwill that they convey and manifest toward us and our people. That's what we focus on. That's what we can rally behind, notwithstanding any religious differences. With that being said, family, not too long ago, I covered here again on this very network a very salacious, false, and slanderous segment that Fox News, yes, the #1 cable news organization in the United States of America, and of course, they have their affiliates around the world, like Sky News and others, that they have large media apparatus. They also have print publications throughout the planet too. So they are a very strong media apparatus. They had the nerve, beloved, to just a day or two after here in the United States. Well, let me back up a little bit. I don't know if some of you all may or may not know, and this is what I discussed in my previous broadcast I did some days ago here, where right after the attacks, the so-called New Year's attacks, terrorist attacks here in the United States that they claim was ISIS inspired, a day or so later, while there was supposed to be a hot and heavy investigation to get to the bottom line of who did it, why they did it, and their alleged connections, yes, you had a Fox News former federal agent come on and speak about a source, an investigator, he claims, a federal investigator, that told him that it was the Nation of Islam that was involved. I want to remind you of that very, just want to play a little excerpt, a brief excerpt of that segment. Of course, the segment was a little bit longer than this, but I want to give you the meat and cut out the bones. Yes, watch this clip.
At the neighborhood. So, are you hearing anything from your people in law enforcement as to how widespread this could be?
I have a good source that was telling me, but I have not been able to confirm it through a second person. But this is an investigator that this individual is not Arab. He's a black American, and that this is a Nation of Islam group, that this individual practiced Islam, but under the Nation of Islam. Now, I don't know if that, I haven't been able to verify that with a second source, but that possibility is out there. I think from what I've seen that's coming in is that we know that they chose New Orleans, but we have to ask why. Why did they go all the way there? That night, they could have chosen in any state the ability to kill numerous people, but they chose that state and that venue. I think we're going to see a link somewhere why they chose that. Either somebody was related to that area, somebody else lived over there that coordinated it, and he just drove the truck in. But there had to be a coordination in some way, shape, or form to New Orleans.
Important questions. Jonathan T. Gilliam, thanks so much for your insight. We appreciate it.
Todd, can I say one other thing?
Sure, quickly.
I always do this to you. I think it's very imperative that Donald Trump, just like he put Tom Homan as the deportations are, I think this is a very important thing because Tom Homan is an expert who worked in that field. We need experts who worked in the field of these types of operations that, like the old Red Cell, Navy SEAL Red Cells, where they worked as terrorists, planning these ops so they could reverse engineer them and share with everybody how, when, where, and why a terrorist or a school shooter or these types of individuals would attack. If we do that and people take it seriously, we could form an entire threat assessment throughout all industry across the country, and it would be so inexpensive and easy to do that it would blow people's minds, and effective if people would do it.
No.
Okay, family. Did you hear that? Did you hear that very incendiary, inaccurate, false, fake propaganda that your Fox News outlet network, your very powerful Fox News, just put out there? Now, I need to remind you of something that I have long said and I will continue to say. I've said this for years. Media is warfare. Yes, media is warfare. Before any physical battle is ever played out in any theater, it's first a war of words. Are you all listening? Now, shout out to the Nation of Islam that constantly has very apt members, ministers, and of course, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who heads the Nation of Islam in the United States and other parts of the world. But this is important because they've also had their own newspaper. I think it was initially called Muhammad Speaks, and now it's called The Final Call, which means that they have had their own black media for many, many decades. Yes? How many of you all know how important that is to speak for yourself, because your open enemy understands the power of their voice and what they seed out? Now, I'm a spiritual teacher, and I am a wordsmith, so I love words, and there's always magic in words. What do I mean by that? When you look at even the word broadcast, and I've said this here on a few occasions, when you look at the word broadcast, do you know that the word broadcast is an agrarian word? It's a word that's connected and has its origin in farming. That's what I mean when I say agrarian or agriculture. I'm going somewhere with this. Why am I bringing that up? Because if they're telling you, and we call segments that air broadcast, right? Beloved, that word, the origin of that word, the etymology of that word is letting you know that they're intentionally, watch this, seeding words. That's the connection. Why am I saying that? Because there's an intention behind when words are put out somewhere. So you notice some very problematic things that this former federal agent, who's telling us that he has got some anonymous investigator that told him that the Nation of Islam is involved in this New Orleans terrorist attack. For those of you that don't know, NOLA in the title stands for New Orleans, Louisiana. Yes, the NO for New Orleans, the city, and the LA for the initials for the state, Louisiana. Now, I need you to understand something. You heard him specifically say that he has not verified that with an additional source. Now, let me tell you all something. He did not reveal who his source was for the initial information. But he stated in a very full-throated manner, watch this. Y'all better pay attention. Y'all better pay attention. He said it was Muslims, but it wasn't the Arab Muslims. He wanted to be very specific and keen on differentiating the type of Muslim. And he almost used the term that we often use. How many of y'all know I talked about what FBA is? You hear us use that phrase on a regular basis. I've been using it for years. The Black grassroots, like our brother Tariq Nasheed, I believe, originated that term in order to delineate us, not to separate us from black folks around the world, but to specify who we are individually. And that's a legal and a cultural thing. Now, how many of you all know that FBA is not a company or a corporation? We're not a sorority or a fraternity. FBA, Foundation of Black American, is pointing to a lineage. So it's not something you have to have a president over, or raise dues, or take minutes on. Talk black to me, somebody. Where's my gavel? For those of you that don't know, the Vicki Show is the home of the hand claps and the gavel raps. I had this divine revelation of the gavel almost 20 years ago. I won't get into details about that, but I brought this to platforms when I came on, different platforms that I've been on over the years. Yes? Because I want you to know that your word matters. Watch this. So he almost used that phrase, FBA, Foundation of Black Americans, but he said this was Black Americans. He didn't want you to have African in there nowhere. He didn't want you to confuse it with no Arabs. He didn't want you to think it was nobody that spoke Arabic. Talk black to me, somebody. He wanted you to know this is not somebody that came from the Middle East or Africa nowhere. He wanted to be very clear. These were Black Americans from the Nation of Islam, and he repeated it. Now, why did he come out the gate saying, I have not been able to verify this with a second source? Y'all, he didn't even get to the end of his point before he immediately said he wasn't able to verify that with a second source. May I submit to you, it is my belief, based on the false nature of the overall segment in the first place, that he immediately said that because he knew it was a lie. He knew it was propaganda. I believe he was certainly put that out there to mix up what's in the minds of the masses, to go ahead and set them up for something they already planned to do. What are the feds up to? Because it was a Fed mouthpiece, a former Fed mouthpiece, and really a current Fed mouthpiece, because he claims that a federal investigator that's on the case now wasn't that told him that. So you got to look beyond what they seeded to you, what they put out in the atmosphere, and the hundreds of thousands and likely millions that will hear this. Now, this network, Read through my broadcast, is one of the first ones to really put it out there in the Black grassroots, and I see other folks are talking about it, and that's what needs to happen, because we need to be ahead of the game. Why is it important that we talk about this and that we don't just let this slide? Do you all know that when they put stuff out in media, they'll use that later on as a fact? Later on, after they setting up something against you, they'll turn around and say, well, see, right after, one day after the event, 2 days after the event, January 2nd is when this happened. My birthday, by the way, my 46th birthday. How many of y'all know I was born to go off on this? Watch this. You better rebut it in whatever an effective way that you can. Even if it's not in a court of law, you better use the court of public opinion. And how many of you all know that we make that possible with our own people through the particular networks that you're watching right now? Shout out to the Nation of Islam, because they responded. Now, how many of you all know that for many, many decades, the Nation of Islam has been unjustly slandered and attacked for a number of different reasons from a number of different people? And they have shown extraordinary patience. They not too long ago sued, I believe it was an Anti-Defamation League, and I believe it was some others that was in that litigation. And I need to get an update on what's happening with that, because I think it was out of court sometime after they initially filed their petition in court. So I have to find out the current status of that and what they plan to do next after the case was removed from the, I think it was temporarily dismissed from the courts, but I think the nation might have been planning something else. I don't know just yet, but I need to stay on top of that. Thankfully, the Nation of Islam recently issued a cease and desist notice. They're putting them on legal notice. And I want to read for you now that legal notice. Are y'all listening? Let me turn it. This is, and I got this direct letter from one of their platforms, even on Instagram, under the Final Call newspaper. So this is directly from the Nation of Islam's publication, is where I retrieved this information from. Yes. It states, with this heading and so forth, it's dated January 6th. It's sent to this Catherine Moran Meeks, the general counsel for Fox News. Shout out to the nation. Look, I ain't even read the substance of the letter yet, and I'm already getting excited because I believe I've learned the power of fighting back in certain situations where you have to counter the lies that's out there because they're trying to seed something. I mentioned before that the word broadcast is an agrarian farming word that means to seed, to cast. That means that if they're casting something, if they're seeding something, they know that they're intentionally expecting some type of public harvest. So I'm trying to let you all know that the media understands that when they say something, they know they're intentionally trying to plant an idea in your mind. That way, when they act and they move later, they've already planted something in your head. So just like we did all these illegal wars and stuff that we did, they first made all these other people like Osama bin Laden, like Saddam Hussein, other people and of the current world leaders. First, they tell you that they're authoritarian. They tell you that they're dictators. After we find out that a lot of them same ones that I just mentioned was on CIA payroll. After we find out, for example, that Donald Rumsfeld was best buddies with Saddam Hussein, and we got pictures of it. Actually, video footage of it. And they turned around and backstabbed them. Now, I'm not saying these folks were perfect by no means. They were devils in their own rights, but they were America's devils. And it's only when a couple of them said no to America, it's only when they pushed back a little bit against America, that we turn around and demonize them and set them up. But we said nothing because we allowed media to call them authoritarians and dictators and devils and all that kind of stuff, not knowing our hidden hand and the behind the scenes stuff that we were doing. Keep that in mind. So before you go talking about how social media platforms are full of misinformation and disinformation, remind yourself that before alternative media was ever a big thing, mainstream established legacy media was lying and got you in wars that took the lives of millions of people and cost us trillions of dollars. And you revered those networks. Vicki, read the letter. Here is the cease and desist notice dated January 6th. So 4 days after this aired. Yes. Notice to cease and desist, the heading says, notice to cease and desist publishing and distributing false and injurious information. Dear General Counsel Meeks, come on, Nation of Islam, look, just that gets me excited, y'all. Talk black to me, somebody. Dear General Counsel Meeks, it says here, let me put this down. I am Abdul Arif Muhammad, and I serve as General Counsel for the Nation of Islam, NOI. On January 2nd, I'm not going to read the whole cease and desist, but I'm going to give you the relevant parts. On January 2nd, 2025, Fox News broadcast a segment of Fox News and Friends filled with false, unverified, and disparaging allegations regarding the Nation of Islam. For such, the NOI hereby demands a cease and desist and a retraction. Let me just hit the gavel on that. Talk black to me, Nation of Islam. During the Fox News and Friends segment hosted by Ashley Strohemer and Todd Pyro with guest former FBI agent Jonathan Gilliam, how many of y'all know I specifically called him out? Mr. Gilliam said he could not confirm what he was about to say through a second person and then proceeded to make the following utterly false statement regarding the suspect in the New Orleans tragedy. Now the Nation of Islam is quoting him and they're using italics here, okay? Quote, he is a black American and that this is a Nation of Islam group. That's him quoting him in this cease and desist. I beg your pardon. Let me continue. Let me read that part again. He quotes the FBI agent, the former FBI agent, Jonathan Gilliam, and said he said, quote, he is a Black American and that this is a Nation of Islam group. He goes on with the quote, that this individual practiced Islam, but under the Nation of Islam. Y'all listen to how they worded that. They wanted to be very clear and they reiterated the Nation of Islam. They emphasized his American Blackness. And the man specified earlier in the segment, as you just saw, that he didn't want you to confuse him with no Arab. Vicki, keep reading. Are y'all listening? Everybody hit that thumbs up button, share the broadcast. This is important. We're getting ahead of this African Diaspora News channel. We're doing good work because I've heard from folks inside where I know some of them saw our broadcast here. How many of you all know that by us exposing this, highlighting this, and you sharing this, you being involved in this, is what's helping us to put pressure on the little sneaky plans that they may have going on behind the scenes. There's a reason they seeded this out there. Let me keep reading. The attorney Abdul Arif Muhammad, counsel for the Nation of Islam, goes on to say, to our knowledge, the suspect has never been a registered member of the Nation of Islam. The government of the United States has the teachings. Wow, y'all ain't ready for this. I forgot about this part. This is real juicy. The government of the United States has the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in their possession. I don't know how I forgot that sentence. It goes on. Anyone is welcome to study them or to tune in to our national broadcast. In none of them will you find us inviting people to do violence or act in a terroristic manner in the nation of our birth. In its 94-year history, somebody put 94 in the chat. Somebody just put those two numbers in the chat. Somebody says 94 years. And in its 94-year history, the Nation of Islam has no track record. Y'all know we discussed this here. Remember I said this. Has no track record of committing or advocating acts of violence against anyone. How many of you all know we specifically said this? Did we not? Fox News is complicit. I said I wasn't going to read all this. I was supposed to skip this paragraph, but I want to read it. It's almost finished, family. Fox News is complicit facilitation of this uncorroborated defamatory information we view as, y'all listen, willful, malicious, and injurious to the Nation of Islam in general and to every single member in particular. Viewers of this program and or as family members of the victims who believe the uncorroborated defamatory statements of your guests that you will continue to have. Hold on, family. Let me get this right. My device. Here we go. Thank you. What was I reading? That you continue to have posted on various platforms could seek to do harm to a member of the Nation of Islam in the name of seeking retribution for their deceased or injured loved ones. Fox News has a responsibility to ensure that what is presented on its platform is fact-checked and sourced for accuracy. This Fox News failed to do, and it caused immediate harm. Thus, we are demanding that Fox News cease and desist the airing and distribution of the above referenced program segment, and we are demanding the immediate removal of that segment of the broadcast with Mr. Gilliam's false accusations from all Fox News platforms and outlets, as well as that of any Fox News affiliates. This letter is not intended to set forth our entire position regarding these false claims. Nothing herein constitute a waiver or limit of our potential rights, remedies, defenses, or claims, all of which are expressly reserved. In other words, in my opinion, that's a fancy way of them letting them know, a ninja, we reserve our right that if we decide to officially and formally sue you and file a brief in court and some other stuff that they may plan to do, that's our reserve too. Just because we send this legal cease and desist doesn't mean that this is the end of our legal possibilities. You understand? We look forward to your immediate action, removal, retraction, and disavowal of the false statements. So they're demanding what? The immediate removal on all their platforms and affiliates, a retraction, which means that they need to publicly state and say that they retracted it because it was inaccurate or so forth, something to that nature, and disavowal of the false statements. Exactly what I just inferred there. And of course, he signs his name on the behalf of Nation of Islam. Somebody put some hand claps in the chat. Shout out to the Nation of Islam for putting Fox News on notice. And shout out to us for making sure that we continue to cover such things and then we serve as a support. Again, this is not about the religion. It's not about whether or not you are a member of the Nation of Islam. It's about the just and righteousness of standing up for black folks and falsely accusing them, especially for a group that has stood with black folks, notwithstanding any of our backgrounds. A people that has a reputation of going into prisons and serving their own people in prisons. A people that have a reputation of giving food and resources and teachings in order to uplift our community. That's what this is about. That's what you're supporting. Because I can hear some of y'all right now say, I don't know about the Islamists, the Muslims. Meanwhile, some of the very ones that be on Fox News, and not just Fox News, but others, but we're specifically talking about Fox News. Meanwhile, they on there claiming that they Christians, and they the main ones that's crucifying you, both metaphorically and physically. Your brothers and sisters in Christ. You find a way to say, well, all Christians ain't like that. Talk black to me, somebody. I have great respect for what they did here, and I'm so grateful that they're fighting back. I believe that this is so very important. Now, I want to say one quick thing. I have referenced this before I go. I have referenced this on many occasions here on this network and other networks that I have been on over the years, yes, and other platforms that I've been on over the years. What is that, Vicki? I have talked about how propaganda works, and a lot of times we like to talk about Goebbels, the propaganda minister in Germany during the German Holocaust. We always like to talk about as if that's the standard we need to look at. Look at all the damage that he did using propaganda in order for them to go through that particular Holocaust. Well, baby, where did Hitler get his ideas from? Oh, anti-Black American practice. How many of y'all know that that's history? How many of y'all know that his eugenics idea came from him watching the United States, and we were given credit for him taking on that idea? What does that tell you about this country against its own citizens, its Black citizens? In the early 20th century, we're in 2025 now, yes? So now about 110 years ago, there was a movie that came out here in the United States that was called The Birth of a Nation. Now, I'm not talking about the similar title, Birth of a Nation, in recent years that was done by our brother, Nate Parker, which he did a brilliant job in that movie when he told the story of our revolutionary brother, Nat Turner. I'm not talking about that movie. I'm talking about the one that was done over a century ago called The Birth of a Nation. What is it about? And I'm almost done. In 1915, this American silent epic drama film directed by D.W. Griffith and starring Lillian Gish. It was a screenplay family that was adapted from Thomas Dixon Jr.'s 1905 novel and play, The Klansman. That was the name of the book, y'all. So they gave the movie a cute little name called The Birth of a Nation. But the movie was adapted from a book that was called The Klansman. Do I need to say anything else? I'm making a point here. Griffith co-wrote the screenplay with Frank E. Woods and produced the film with Harry Atkin, right? I'm just giving you a little bit of background. When you look that up, the theatrical release poster, D.W. Griffith's The Birth of a Nation, you will see the Klansman on a horse Not only does a Klansman have on his terrorist outfit, y'all see where I'm going with this? The horse has his on too, with the eyes cut out. And you see the man sitting on top of his horse with both clad in his Klansman terrorist outfit along with the horse. The horse has his own Klansman outfit on. The man has in his hand a cross that's burning. Yes? Are y'all listening? Vicki, why do you constantly bring up this movie? I have to remind folks that Birth of a Nation, the movie, one of the first and most prominent places where the movie released and featured was in the United States White House. And that prior to the release of that movie, the Ku Klux Klan, the OG terrorist organization, was in decline in terms of its numbers. Not in terms of its anti-blackness, don't you ever get that twisted, but in terms of its official grouping and formation. Do you know that the Ku Klux Klan received its greatest resurgence and membership after that movie? And it painted in the movie the black man as a savage, as if he was trying to come after the white woman and stuff, and promoted anti-blackness in the Ku Klux Klan. What did I tell you that the movie initially featured in the most prominent way? The White House. That tells you everything that you need to know about the power of propaganda and the power of media. Why did I bring that up specifically within this context? Because here it is, United States of America, Fox News, and former FBI agent. You're sitting here trying to claim that your most faithful and loyal citizens are terrorists when you are the original OG. And through your own media propaganda, you were able to increase your terrorist organization numbers. The irony of using media again to set up foundational Black Americans, specifically the Nation of Islam Muslims, to be terrorists. Do you catch the irony in that, family? Using media to set us up now, but the same media is what supported the original terrorist group that they're trying to now claim we are today. Somebody say, not on our watch. You got it twisted, baby. We're going to continue to lift our voice and to say, no, hands off of those that stand for the well-being of our people here in the United States and around the world. We say, hell no to that. Now, family, certainly you all know there's a reason why they're trying to set this up. I'm going to talk about who could possibly be that secret group that's behind both domestic and international terrorism. Remember, the media in the United States said that those attacks that took place in New Orleans, and then shortly after the attack that took place in Vegas, they specifically said it was ISIS inspired. Did y'all know that? I'm going to talk about the secrets of that and what's behind that. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about American witchcraft, and it ain't the ancestral kind that come from ancient Black practices. I'm going to do a free webinar on Sunday, January 26th. You only got a little bit of time to register, but it's free. Sunday, January 26th. Go to my website at VickiPlanet.com and we'll see if we can pin it later. But go to VickiPlanet.com. That's my website so that you can register today. Family, thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to share the broadcast. Of course, we look forward to your, of course, respectful and careful comments, because how many of y'all know the algorithms pick up comments? So we want you to be honest, but just be careful about some of the language that you use there, because we don't want to, go against any of the stuff that they got going on with these platforms. Okay. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Vicki Dillard. I can't wait